Tionesta Creek Bigfoot scares family out of Allegheny Forest in Pennsylvania. Jennifer writes RMSO. I'm from Ohio. In 2011, I had an encounter with a Bigfoot in Allegheny National Forest in Pennsylvania. Was out camping with my son and his friend. We spent 3 nights there riding our dirt bikes. One morning, we were fixing breakfast around the fire, and we started hearing grunting and a kind of low growling coming towards us through the forest. I put it to a wild hog. I knew it wasn't a bear. I've seen and heard many bears there before. The sound was getting closer and closer. The only thing that scared me was if it was a hog. I know they're very dangerous. I grabbed my .44 and just sat there seeing if it would continue coming. Then there was this big crash. All of us looked over, and it was getting up. It must have slipped on the muddy mountain. When I saw it get up, I was blown away. It had to be at least 8.5 to 9 feet tall, and its shoulders were half as wide. I yelled at the kids to get in the Jeep. They ran like deer in a push. I stood there with my gun and immediately threw it into the tent. I knew there was no way I could have ever shoot it. It looked just like a giant hairy man. It stood there with both of us looking at each other in the eyes. Then it just turned and continued on its way down the mountain. It never even looked back. I went to the Jeep to see if the kids were okay. They were fine. That was the first time I've ever heard my son swear. He said, "What the F was that?" I told them it must have been a Bigfoot. We stayed until a few hours before dark. The kids wanted to leave. We packed up, loaded the bikes on the trailer, and got out of there. Ohio Sasquatch encounter on a hollow in Wayne Forest. Van Lester writes RMSO. My Sasquatch encounter was in the Wayne National Forest of southeast Ohio. We saw him clearly at about 40 yards away at dusk. He was about an 8-footer. It was late summer of '73 when a good friend and I were en route from Columbus to Portsmouth, taking us past the Wayne National Forest. My friend was originally from down that way and knew of a place in the forest that offered a great view of the sunset on the hills that cover this area of Ohio, the foothills of the Appalachians, and we agreed that it would add to our trip. The landscape was a pull-off on a turn that faced directly west, allowing for the promised sunset. A beautiful location with a spot nestled between 2 hills and a holler at our backs. The sun was nearing the horizon when my friend quickly shushed me several times and said that there was a deer somewhere on my side of the car. I looked and saw nothing and asked how he knew there was a deer over there. He replied that he could hear twigs breaking in the underbrush that covers the area. So we quietly waited for this deer's appearance. Suddenly, this thing rounded the hill about 40 yards to the right of the car. We were stunned as we could see it clearly rounding the hill, making its way towards the road. Neither of us had ever heard the term Bigfoot before and had no idea what we were seeing. We were really scared. We watched as it walked off of the hillside, then crossed the road on which we had come to this spot. It really scared us as it crossed the road. It looked directly at us, then turned back to its path, which took it submerged into the holler behind us. At this time, the sun had not yet gone down, but the shadows were long in the woods. My friend was more scared than I and was determined to leave immediately, as he asked repeatedly that we get the hell out of here, and what the hell did we just see? I, like most young boys, was fascinated with dinosaurs and owned several books on the subject, but my favorite offered artist renderings of their creatures, and one of the paintings was that of a giant 3-toed sloth. I told Tom that it was that animal, but without the tail. I played football in high school on both sides of the ball, and as a defender, I was really good at sizing up other players of large stature. This thing was between 8 and 8.5 feet tall. There were 2 other characteristics that I recall vividly, one being the length of his arms and legs, the other being the length of his coat. When we returned to Columbus, we told our friends about what we had witnessed, and for the most part, They were certain that we had seen a bear. A couple of years later, Tom and I were stationed at Grand Forks, North Dakota, as a policeman in the Air Force, and we lived in different dorms. There was a blizzard that night, leaving me nothing to do but watch TV. That was when I first saw the Patterson film. I was stunned. I immediately called Tom at his room and told him to turn on the appropriate channel, explaining that this thing is what we saw in Ohio. It was on TV, and they called it Bigfoot. We talked excitedly while we watched whatever program it was on, and was absolutely certain they were the same creature, but with ours appearing a little taller and not as thick, but definitely related. Today, whenever we see each other, Tom and I, we assure one another of the reality of the whole encounter. Our story remains the same after all these years, and remember how scared we were when it acknowledged us as it crossed the road. Our fear was such that we did not cross its traveled path when we left. Tom didn't know where the road led to, but we were not going back the way we came. The whole episode lasted what I would guess to have lasted approximately 30 plus seconds. And he was clear in view as the aforementioned underbrush was only thigh-high on him, and then the clear view across the road, and he disappeared down the hill behind us. I hope this answers your inquest. It was an amazing event that is forever etched in both our minds. RMSO responds, "Hi, Van. Ohio has a long history of Bigfoot sighting reports along with images and videos of the creature, including where you had yours in the Wayne Forest." Tom writes RMSO, "So here's a video I took upon leaving the area. I can't say for sure what it is, but I noticed it was a child size at the time and I assumed adults would be around. But when I look at my video, it is all that I see. Maybe someone should research the area back there. It bothered me enough to go back and measure the handrail. I'll send you a photo from that view also." RMSO asks, "Hi, Tom. Did you sit there and see if you could fold your arms across the railing the way it was too?" Tom continues, laughing out loud, "No, I went back and measured the bottom rail. The rail comes up to my knees and I'm 6'4". I couldn't even contort myself that small. The bottom rail was about 20 inches off the top of the walking deck. When I took the video, I was with my son and grandson. We were going back to check out the access road near Howland, Ohio. Definitely something was watching us. Thanks for looking at it for me." RMSO states, "I enlarged the subject by 400% and slowed the video down so that we can get a better look. It appears to be a couple shades of brown from head to toe, including a tan face, and a few of the frames, the subject appears to have a dome-shaped head. Not saying this is a juvenile Bigfoot sitting cross-legged on the wooden bridge walking path observing you and your family. However, its color seems to be perfect camouflage for the surrounding area. We get a lot of reports from the Ohio area. All include a Bigfoot encounter across the border into Pennsylvania,